The evening before sim racing's biggest event, it's only natural that the IMSA iRacing series takes to the world centre of racing for round 6 of Friday night primetime, a warm-up of sorts before they take to the big stage for 24 hours of action. However, it's only 45 minutes on the clock for tonight, but still plenty of action to unfold as we have seen over the last previous weeks. And to talk you through all of the action will be myself, Zach Sweeney, Cameron Roger, but next to me in the commentary booth, and the man himself, Hugo Luis, behind the scenes. Cam, of course, welcome back first of all. This is definitely going to be a good one.
Yeah, it certainly is. Can't wait to see how these drivers do around the awesome Daytona International Speedway. As you say, the 24 coming up this weekend as well. So I'm sure there'll be quite a few splits tonight for the drivers to start practicing and getting those last few tenths of a second to see if they can win their split this coming weekend.
Yeah, it's a good little warm-up. I mean, it's exactly, or almost exactly the same as what they'll be running for the weekend to come. So I guess it just gets you into a good mindset. It gets you, of course, most importantly, into that experience of race conditions. I mean, you can do as many laps of practice as you want, running the fuel stints, etc., etc. The best teacher is just getting out there and doing some racing.
Certainly is, and especially with traffic management and things like that. This track is certainly a slightly tricky one in certain sections of the track, and the drivers have to be quite confident with that. As you all know, in a 24-hour race, the traffic management is certainly going to be key. But of course, a slightly shorter 45-minute race coming up, so a little bit different format, but certainly an intense bit of action for these drivers to get ready for.
Course, and straight into the grid. Of course, we have got 3 classes. We start with the BMW M Hybrid V8. It's John Paget and Henry Dries that are your front row of the grid with the 38. Dan Malash in P3, Andrew Mickey in P4. Jorgen Olsen rounds off your top 5 with Stefan Loos rounding off the 3rd row of the grid there in 6th. Hector Oliveira P7, Michael DeForest alongside him, Nicholas Durson and Nicholas Domino in P9 and 10 respectively. Ricardo Taylor and Nate Campbell to the 6th row of the grid. Very, very close. 1.5 seconds actually the top 13 with Hadrian Lepig rounding off that spot with Jose Trevino at P14. Then comes Cody Dash, Benny Free just in behind there, and now on to the IMSA 23 class. We've completely skipped the Delara LMP2s, but Fabio Musel P1, Mike Braurig P2, Giuliano Yametti P3 with Paul Crabb alongside him there in 4th, Damien Dejoux P5, Horia Adrian there alongside him in the Ferrari. Mark in P7 with Cantas Unders P8, Patricio Montivero, Amet in P10 to round off your top 10 of the field. Very, very close indeed. Then comes Kevin Fueling, P11 there, just 1 second separating the top 12. Daniel Quo, Marcus Conn, William Lindell, Christopher Jonsson, Curtis Bird, Armand Borden, P17 and 18 respectively there to round off the top 18. Johan Hilbert, Lucas Kawakami, P20, Bruno Carrera and Adriano there to round off your GTD field. Cam, just before we get underway for 45 minutes of racing action, what are we expecting? This is going to be a tight one.
Fast, frantic action. Of course, drivers still learning this new BMW as we get underway.
We do indeed. Can't wait to see how we get underway for tonight's. The green flag is waved as they hurdle the way down in towards turn number 1. John Paget leads fairly comfortably, but side by side in this fight for 3rd between Marlish and Andrew Mickey. Still running side by side, the 38 and the 33 in a spin already. Oh my word, he's managed to keep it pointing the right way, but he's going to lose a ton of places. 2, 3, maybe even 4, still spinning. The tyres not cooperating at all. An even bigger crash just in behind there. Oh my word, it's huge as carnage and not the way you want to start a 45-minute race.
Absolutely not. 17 of these new BMWs coming through that first section of the corners. Absolute carnage. So many cars all over the road with damage. But here we get to the GTD field as well, coming into the International Horseshoe for the first time. Looks like that's Mike Brownrigg there holding the lead as it stands in his Audi R8. But of course, the field very close behind as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's just absolute carnage and chaos, and I'm absolutely loving this. Already so much to talk about just in the opening moments of this race. You can see there, Brownrigg very much under pressure by the 11 machine in the BMW just in behind them as they run their way through the Western Horseshoe. But it's that thing, isn't it, Cam? Is how hard do you want to fight this early on? The slipstream is going to take such precedence as we see the dive there from the Mercedes into the next left-hander. That's a very weird place to go for it, literally tying into my point of you don't want to battle too early on because you lose that slipstream and you lose a decent portion of your chances in this race.
Yeah, the slipstream is going to be king around this, especially in the sequence of the race where you get into a sort of pack racing as we're getting on the DPIs. They're going out really high. I think as Olsen slowing down, actually losing some places. DeForest there going past as well, maybe having a little bit of an issue coming out of the Le Mans chicane and out down in towards turn number 1. But yeah, certainly that is going to be the king around here. If you can save a lap of fuel here or there, we saw it work out very well for the Urana boys in the Raw last weekend, and maybe when we get to the 24, that'll be quite crucial as well.
Side by side for the race lead, Paget versus Dries. Oh my word, Dries is very wide there, kicking off maybe a bit of dirt and losing the place to Mylash there, the 38, who just catapults himself up in his second place. It can very much turn on its head, and what seemed to be an offense for the race lead has now turned to him maybe being under pressure from Oliveira to fall off the podium. That's a lot of pressure off the shoulders of John Paget though, and could allow him to maybe stretch his legs and get away. A 1 second lead. It's going to be up to Dries and Mylash and Oliveira really just to work together, not fight too hard, and not in a sense maybe bump draft each other. Maybe we might see some of that, but just not fighting each other at all. They need to use their pace to get right back onto the back of that number 30.
Yeah, when you start getting out of that sort of 1 second or so range, it's going to be a little bit harder. There's still definitely a little bit of slipstream. You can see just a few thousandths there, Paget being closed in at the front. Certainly not the major slipstream, so for sure they've got to be careful that gap doesn't get too much bigger, but a tenth of a second does come back away through the Le Mans chicane. So these three can sort of work together, as you say. They might be able to pull themselves together effectively and work it out. And remember, we have reduced fuel tank sizes in this class, so there will be definitely a pit stop of around 15 to 20 minutes of fuel to take somewhere at the end of the race.
Yeah, 80% fuel capacity for the BMW M Hybrid V8. That means they will have to come into the pit lane, as we say, usually, as we saw at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and at Magny-Cours last time out. It is around sort of half an hour into this race. These guys do like to go quite long, whilst you can get away with pitting quite early. It seems the almost unanimous decision is to go quite late on fuel. I guess what could be the reason for that, Cam?
I think the biggest factor is a shorter time in the pit stop, and also you effectively have more time at a lower fuel level as well. It's just, oh, that's a massive send there down the inside. Paget 1 second in the lead this time last lap, but is now losing place even to Dries as well, going through down to third place. That is certainly not the couple of corners that Paget would have wanted, but that just shows you how quickly things can change around here.
Oh, the pendulum swings one way, then very much swings the other. Paget looked to be very, very secure and maybe even under pressure as Mylash Dries has lined up the move in towards the Le Mans chicane. A four-way fight for the leaders. This they absolutely seem to like to see. There's Dries into the race lead. Oh my word, the 38 could be round, and he's collected the other three cars in the mix as well. Paget and Mylash both spinning out. Same to Oliveira, I think, maybe stuck in that. No, he's been able to carry on just maybe in that. Oh my word, the rejoin as well. That is as sketchy as you could really ask for. Even more contact. The rear wing completely gone. A Paget there as well. Oh my word, we're talking about carnage and chaos. We're talking about this being a warm-up for the 24 hours of Daytona over the next weekend, Cam. If they drive like this, they're not going to be lasting any time.
Yeah, this is some clumsy driving in the first few minutes of this race, and that is not the way you want to see the leaders go about it. A lot of contact and spins going around, especially in that BMW category. And as you see in this split, we've only got the GTP category and the GTDs as well. There's no P2s in this split, so imagine when we get the P2s involved, there's certainly some potential action coming the way this 24. So the drivers, especially of the top categories, will need to be able to just hold on to the car a little bit better and realise that there's some time in their race this weekend. But of course, back to today, we still have 40 minutes of action, so still some intense fighting to come.
Of course, this isn't the top split we are showing. Usually we do go to the top split. There could be a send from Giametti to the inside of Crab as they run their way in towards turn number 1. The orange Mercedes trying to get the leg up over the Ferrari and has been able to do that. That was the move that we saw a little bit earlier on. And yeah, even side by side actually for the lead. We look a little bit further up. Bramrig and Mazzaro very close together. And 3/10 now is the gap as they run their way in towards the International Horseshoe. It's Bramrig that just about hangs on, but the pressure certainly is on. But yeah, this is not the top split, ladies ladies and gents. This is a split 2, I do believe. Not that it is any justifiable reason for the sends that we're starting to see, but I'm sure you are all absolutely loving the carnage and chaos. But we're also getting a fair share of really good racing action and some really close fights as well. Look, just here, 5 cars fighting for the GT race lead.
And that's one of the mega things, of course, about Daytona, especially on the iRacing service as well. I think I counted we have about 25 splits just for this race that you're seeing at this moment in time. We're going to have probably hundreds coming this weekend as well. So many drivers getting involved for the Daytona 24. It is just that month, of course. But we're looking towards the front. There's almost a battle for the lead there. Bramwick towards the outside of Le Mans Chicane, just having to give that one up. So Merzel goes up to the front, takes the lead of the GTD category.
Good move indeed, calm and collected, which is, well, the opposite of what we've seen so far. Hopefully they settle down and give us some interesting racing action. We're going to take a look as to, actually no, I think have we cut back to the other split? Maybe, potentially. Well, yeah, we're coming up back into split 1, and, well, we're settled into a completely different race cam. So hopefully these guys have settled down a little bit more than the split 2 guys.
Yes, certainly. Let's see how this one works out. Of course, we need to work out the drivers. We have, of course, one of the Apex cars there towards the front and multiple of his teammates in behind. So that's going to be a big factor as well, actually, when it comes into some of these races. Some of these teams, of course, have multiple cars. So therefore, when you come into a series like this where it's single driver entries, you're going to end up with so many drivers from the same team driving at the same time. And, of course, one of the Williams cars there in P number 2. This is, of course, the LMP2 category as well. Now for Williams there coming up towards the Le Mans Chicane, and let's see if they can try and make it past.
Doing their absolute best, of course. It's not the first time that we've seen esports team take to the track in Friday Night Prime Time. Just last time we had Undercut Sim Racing, they were able to take a 1, 2 and a 4, I do believe, last time at Magny-Cours. It was an interesting affair for them, guys. Let's put it that way, in the bluntest of terms. But yeah, it's good to see that teams are getting involved and getting themselves onto the track, because you've got to represent. And could we see a move for the race lead potentially? 4 cars bumper to bumper as they run their way in towards turn number 1. Nothing materializing as of yet, but you can definitely tell that they're putting the pressure on. And I think maybe those in 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th in this train are thinking of the better objective. They're trying to save fuel and shorten their pit stop when the time comes.
Yeah, we didn't quite complete the points there. The fuel saving around here is quite important because in this style of race, you have basically a longer stint than a shorter stint. If you can save a bit of fuel, go this extra lap or 2, and then have a much shorter stop at the end compared to your rivals, you obviously have to take less fuel at the stop, so then you'll be stationary for less time. And those couple of seconds can always make the difference. As we mentioned, Zach, the slipstream around here is very impressive. So if you can get out of that slipstream bubble by a couple of seconds, that could be a big factor in your race.
Oh, for sure. I mean, again, it's a case of just trying to be by yourself for as long as possible and not getting caught up in some of that carnage and chaos as well. I mean, we saw it with some of the Split 2 guys at the absolute forefront of a fantastic example of what carnage and chaos can do. You do not want to be a part of that. The more time you can spend running your own race, it's almost the better. But I mean, you're here for a bit of fun, I guess. I mean, for these guys, there's no pride or no prizes or anything, just pride on the line. So I guess sometimes you do want to just try and give it your all and go for those moves, as we might potentially see here from the 2nd place LMP2. I don't even know why I went to say LMPW2. I don't know what I'm on about, to be honest, guys. But anyway, I digress. 4 cars for the lead still, and no changes. No one really interested, I don't think. They're just playing the calm before the storm. I guess it is better to wait and go for those moves later on in this race when you sort of know who you're fighting, where the pecking order is, and also where you can't be counterattacked. For these guys, they go for a move, chances are the next time by, they're just going to get overtaken and done anyway.
Yeah, we did see that Williams car basically pushing the number 13 all the way down the front straight away there. That's going to be a big factor, of course. If you can do that, you can gain a couple of tenths on your rivals behind and potentially start to open up a gap of sorts. But this middle sector of the lap certainly opens up the gaps a little bit. even though it's obviously the road course version, we still use pretty much 99% of the full oval, but those hairpins in the middle really, it's quite interesting how just a couple of hairpins can turn it already into such an impressive road course. But certainly, these are the important parts of the track. You're going to see once again, I assume he's just going to push him all the way down to Le Mans chicane, just try and gain those extra couple of tenths, save a bit of fuel, and then try and be strategic about how we're going about this race.
I guess the strategic thing is the better way to go about it. These guys are warming themselves up for a weekend of 24-hour racing action. These guys are practicing their fuel saving techniques and things like that. But I mean, it's not making for the best of shows. I mean, the potential is there. This could, I mean, it's a short fuse. All it takes is a small little spark to ignite all of the action. But none of these guys really want to be the one to initiate that action. At least at this stage, there is a move towards the back of the train. However, the move for what is going to be fourth place. There's the dive in towards turn one, and they might still emerge side by side. No, you can see they're just actually settling in front for P4. But it was a small change, and I don't think either party could afford really to fight that hard for that place, because again, you run the risk of losing that slipstream to the pack ahead.
And this is how you have to be strategic about your racing as well, because that car there, fourth place, I think is, I believe, another one, the Williams cars, basically just slid past the car ahead, didn't really lose any time, and as you see, they are all still in the train. So if you can pick off those positions one by one, you start to work your way up the train. And if you're further back, that is really how you need to go about the race. Of course, the ones in the first couple of positions can't really do too much about it because they're a little bit stuck. But when you're further back, that is how you need to obviously work it out. But you don't want to fight so much that, as we mentioned, you then lose the slipstream, you lose the pack, and then you're chasing for the rest of the stint.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, it's a game of chess as opposed to a game of checkers. This is the fight for the BMW lead towards the front of the pack. We have got names now as the live time is up. It's Alexander Spets that leads the way from Vlad Kimachev. Eduardo Leo, our race winner from last time out at Magny Cool, running up there in P3. Then comes John Bennett and Casey Kerwin to round off your top five. And following the fight there, you can see Leo in the 27. A very vibrant car, it must be said. But this is an example of a breakaway pack. I mean, you've got a very close fight for second, but Spets has just sort of careered off into the distance. He's running really his own race 1.3 seconds ahead of the rest.
They're starting to turn into quite a nice gap, actually. Once you mentioned, when you get over that sort of 1 second, 1.5 second, it really becomes a little bit more difficult for the cars behind to just start sort of reeling you in further and further. But of course, this car as well is just so fast that things can change in an instant with the traffic. Although it doesn't look like we are around any sort of traffic as it stands. The BMW is still fighting towards themselves as we're almost 15 minutes in towards this 45-minute race.
Yeah, it's flown by so far. We've already had so much drama and things to unfold. I'm sure that's not going to change for the foreseeable future. Back to the fight for the P2s as Rankin, Constantini, then comes Korpinen there in P3, Moreno, Sarika, Gordy Much there in P5, then comes Owen Carroll, P6. We've got Reese Carroll watching along in the YouTube chat as well. There is Gordy Much. Very, very experienced racing driver and proving his worth in the sim, actually, running top 5 and still definitely within a shout for the win today.
Certainly, this is actually quite a nice place to be as we've been following along. When you're in this position and you're getting a absolutely mega slipstream from the cars ahead, you definitely be able to save a lot of fuel. As you mentioned, those couple of laps extra you may be able to go could be very crucial with how this works, because especially if everyone ahead of you pits, you can get a nice clean lap as you're going 3 wide almost in towards turn 1.
Oh my word, this is the action we like to see. Everyone just trying to find the space and fill it. A very close fight now for the lead, running all the way to the outer extremities of the circuit. Constantini up now into the race lead, followed by Korpinen. And now the move from the 13, diving his way in towards the inside of the International Horseshoe. Sideways there goes Korpinen and round the number 4. Unfortunately, that is Owen Carroll, unfortunately, having a bit of an off, taken to the grass sideways as he exits. That is not the way you want to end that fight on, for him. That is such a shame. Going to take another look as to how it happened. It all happened so quickly, Cam.
Yeah, Rankin there down the inside, just making contact. Really, Kalpanen wasn't leaving him much space either, but it was a very late dive from Rankin. So certainly a difficult one to swallow for Kalpanen there. He was in such a nice position for a while there to try to make a bold move to get towards the front, really taking some risk, but unfortunately in the end didn't quite work out. As we come back to the battle for P7, the sort of P7 era of the BMWs, almost 3 wide coming into the International Horseshoe.
That's what we like to see. I mean, absolutely loving this. Great racing up and down the field. Not necessarily too beneficial for their races, but giving us a lovely fight here going on. The fight between Farrow and Gaul in towards now the next right-hander late on the brakes between the pair of them. It's a case of who's bravest. The 28, the long way round of the 14, still pinned to his inside. The white BMW now just got the nose ahead in towards the next left-hander. The sender once again from Gaul is going to see him a nose ahead as they enter on to the oval. Who's going to get the slipstream of the car ahead of Quero is going to be the question. I think Farah has to just settle in behind, but again, it's battles like these that chop and change every single lap that are far from over, because so quickly it can change. The dart now to the right hand side from the white BMW, the 14 now outside line for the Le Mans chicane. That's going to be bold and brave, but not quite worked, and a twitch as well. And what could have been a very heroic move has now turned into him well out of contention for that fight, at least for now.
Yeah, Farah, maybe he should have heeded to the flashing lights that we saw there from Gaudet, because outside, battling into Le Mans chicane is not what you want to do. As you see there, it is so difficult to really gain the track position from that. It's such a one-line sequence of corners, and unfortunately just losing out massively from that. So Gaudet now needs to try and catch up again to Quaro, who gained about a second in that battle. As we come towards the fight in the GTD category, this is Sven Haase there leading the way in that Lamborghini, and he's got quite a few nice big names behind. He's got Keenan Bletsiotis and also Johan Half there in the top 4.
Wow, we've got some big names in Split 1. I think a lot of these guys want to get their warm-up in, but they are not bringing an absence of action. They are giving it absolutely everything, and Sven Haase is doing his utmost to try and hang on to that lead by only less than half a tenth back to Keeney, who's practically pushing him now on this run in towards turn number 1. Are we going to see any changes in behind the fight for third? Potentially the Audi going to soar his way all the way around the outside, maybe even second place as well for Johan Hath. Oh my word, 2x2 as well, 2 rows deep between them, and they might well bring in the rest of the field. Very argy-bargy between the Mercedes and the Audi, and now running side by side between the two teammates. The send back to the inside for the number 2 machine in towards the International Horseshoe, going to push the Mercedes to the outer edges of the circuit, costing them time to the top 2. But oh my word, Cam, they are bringing it tonight.
Certainly are. I thought Half of well out of that move, but managed to dive it back down inside into the International Horseshoe. We're getting some LMP2s coming through as well. This could always add some spice into the mix, as I think that's Luke McEwen getting pushed out a little bit in the background, but still just about in this battle, as the LMP2s really are now going side by side through the corners, as this is really going to open up. Is that potentially the top battle in the LMP2 as well, coming through the GTDs, and that is just how it can really open up some of these battles, and you start to lose the slipstream that's involved with that.
Fortunately, these guys have probably caught them at one of the best times on the circuit, is when they are going through the oval, where the P2s can just take to the outside line and make a pretty easy job of making their way through. However, it's here when you catch them in towards the Le Mans chicane. You can see the dive there from one of the P2s trying to find their way through. Very fast sequence is the Le Mans chicane, and that's going to be a big discrepancy of pace between the prototypes and the GTs. It means that the P2s are really going to have to start their pace, and more importantly, their momentum on that run through 3 and 4 in towards turn 1 to start the new lap. It does cost them a lot of time, and oftentimes traffic is a game of luck, and when you do catch that traffic.
Yeah, if you sort of clipped the Le Mans chicane from like the entry to the exit, the GTDs probably only lose something like a second in terms of the time, but it's also the momentum that the prototypes lose slowing down because of the GTDs as well. Then they lose that momentum all the way round NASCAR 3 and 4. That is really the big factor there. It's at Half as well. McEwen trying to get back up towards Belesiotis there for 4th place in the GTD category, getting very close indeed for a moment in time there, but actually having to look out because they got Ugolotti just in behind, as we're getting the first round of pit stops a little bit earlier than I was expecting. 25 minutes to go.
Yeah, everyone coming in. Well, at least a few. We got Eduardo Leo, Alexander Spets, Vlad Kimachev, Quero, Gaul, all into the pit lane. Not stopped. Actually, they are stopped for quite some time. And now the smash and dash is complete. They can continue on their way. But yeah, it's quite early compared to what we've seen, as you brought up. 25 minutes to go. I don't want to say maybe it's a case of Daytona being more demanding in terms of their fuel. Is it just a case of as soon as one person comes in, everyone wants to follow in because of the power of the slipstream?
The alternative would be maybe they're just they didn't run dry and then they're topping up to go to the end, maybe doing it reverse. But that is an interesting one. We will have to find out, because if not, that might be leaning towards a smash and dash at the end, which was potentially not what we were expecting. But certainly we'll have to see how that one works out. Look at the amount of cars here coming out of NASCAR 4, going towards the front. So towards the front of the field, we're getting this is the number 9 car. This is Ugolotti. Look at the back of Belletiotis, who's lost a place there at some point, as McEwen has made his step, and so is Johan Hart as well. Up the inside there, loads of places being changed as Haase goes from the lead down to 4th place in a matter of a few laps.
I'll be honest, I cannot keep up with this at all. There's the prototypes, the 46 darting to the inside of the Lamborghini, getting spun round because of the I don't even know what to describe this, just a traffic jam of sorts compiling itself. It's not ideal for these guys. Very easy to get overwhelmed. You can see there the 32 very wide onto the grass, and it is, I mean, surprisingly enough, it's not actually disrupted this lead fight so much. I mean, we've still got Keeney Haas and the 3rd place man of Luke McEwen still bumper to bumper to bumper, and P4 of Sven Hasse only 7 cents back, despite that very awkward affair for a lot of those cars. It's not changed the dynamic of this race too much.
And that is why the good old saying of traffic obviously gives and then takes away, because eventually, in theory, it should average out over the course of multiple rounds, multiple cars coming through. It should average out to be roughly equal. As you come back towards the front of the LMP2 category as well, we've got Rankin there holding behind as Sirica, I should say, in 3rd place, also very close. So we've got top battles up and down all of the categories.
A good theory from someone in the YouTube chat saying that the BMWs come into the pit lane as they hit the tail of traffic, which is definitely a fantastic idea. You come in, get some clear out, and continue on. You don't have to lose that much in terms of pace, which is for sure a good way to go about things. Haas and McEwen, the 2 Apex Racing team teammates, running very close together. Sven Hasse into the pit lane as well. A split strategy then for some of our leaders in the GT classes. They're coming in at different points in the race. How big of a change is this? I mean, is it going to drastically change the dynamic of that lead fight?
I think it potentially can, because obviously we do actually have quite a few of the GTD's cars now in pit road and coming out, but certainly a few laps here and there, and the extra second leaning one way, I should say, traffic on your in or out lap, that can really be a big factor. And of course, in a sprint race where you have some control of when you make the pit stop, that is obviously a strategic factor that the teams will have to work out, as these the GTPs managed to get past the GTDs in a very nice manner. But Keeney there coming out is of course going to be a little bit further down, 6th place as it stands.
Unfortunately, but still plenty of time. Still just under half of this race left to make the progress forward. And well, we've seen how quickly, evidently, towards the start of this race in Split 2, how quick things can turn on the head. I'm sure it's going to be no different in terms of these guys on board with Moreno Sirica towards the top end. The fight for the lead in the Dallara P217 class. Constantine and Ranking running 1 and 2 and holding firm at the moment. It's very commendable on Michele Constantini's part as to how they're so capable of staying so composed despite everything that's happened. I mean, for a driver in their position, you would almost expect them to sort of panic and start to have those mistakes start to creep in. But for the number 23, we've not seen any of that as of yet.
Well, that's what happens when you come top split racing on iRacing. So many drivers here in the sort of 8s, 9s, even some 10k drivers in this field in terms of iRacing. So certainly lots and lots of talent. The SOF is going to be absolutely crazy for this split, and that is just what happens when you come Daytona. Everyone is out to party.
I won a 700 strength of field the other day, and I felt so proud of myself. But can't imagine how these guys are doing. And I think a 9k strength of field amongst these. Very, very close, very, very tight as well. They're now in towards the International Horseshoe. We're seeing a bit of a fight here between a couple of the BMWs fighting still over some of these positions. I think it's Vlad Kimichev versus Leo versus Spets versus Bennett and Kerwin as well, still in this fight, and it's not over by any means. And now that car that was just in behind Leo Spets is now eyeing up a move maybe in towards the Western Horseshoe, but nothing as of yet. And it's that thing, it's you've got to be careful when you get overtaken not to let your rhythm get disrupted at all, because I mean, it's similar to karting, I guess, in the sense that you're running so close to the car in front and to the cars behind that as soon as someone makes a move, you're vulnerable, you're shaken. Everyone behind wants to slice their pie. They want to find a way through to capitalize on that weakness.
Yeah, these guys are so close on pace. They're so just, I guess, consistent as well in terms of their own driving. That's actually say when you start going out of that, you start making those overtakes, it really does yeah, it just makes it a little bit more difficult. But look how fast these new BMWs are through that Le Mans chicane. That is going to be such an important factor, I can see, when we get towards the 24 hours this weekend. Just can't wait to see how we're going to see the top guys managing that throughout the race. As it stands, the top five still within a bit of a battle between themselves as they try and work their way up towards the front.
Still 18 minutes left to go. There's the dive in towards turn one as well. What a move. Very opportunistic and very well done from Spets to the inside of Leo. And yeah, that is the type of moves that you like to see. Didn't lose much time in that either, and is now able to still put his sights forwards onto Vlad Kimichev for third place in this race for the BMW field. I mean, you can't even put a figure on which is the most competitive class, because all three of them are so close. They've got such big names as well in the mix that all three of them are equally as competitive as the other, still fighting side by side. Just in behind that, Bennett and Kerwin as well in the bid for 6th place in this in the field and towards the back end of this train as well. I mean, I have to say, Cam, I'm a little overwhelmed in terms of how much action we're getting. There's just so much to look at. Don't really know where to point the cameras. I mean, it's almost one of the best headaches that you can have in sim racing.
Certainly is, and that is why this is one of the fan favourites, the driver favourites in terms of track. It just is so fast, it's so frantic, but it's also got the technical abilities as well and the slower speed stuff. It's a very rewarding track when you get it right, and of course it's such a high-speed nature that the tension that comes with that, knowing that if you make a mistake, it's going to be a big mistake, that of course comes into it as well. As we come back to the LMP2s, Costatini is still leading the way here with his teammate Rankin behind. I want to see how this one develops as we get a bit further into the stint, because at some point, is Rankin really going to sort of start battling his teammate, or are they going to sort of be just keeping it calm and trying not to basically hold it onto a 1-2?
I mean, what would you do, Cam, if you were Rankin's position? You've got your teammate of Costantini just in front of you. Do you want to hold station? I mean, it's an official race, sure, but it's not the Daytona 24. I mean, it's a race you're doing on a Friday evening, 45 minutes for the IMSA iRacing series. Are you going to hang on and try and keep that 1-2, or are you going to be a bit selfish and go for the win? I mean, he's a racing driver at the end of the day.
Oh, well, we'll have to see. Oh, is that's going to be diving onto the pit lane? Is that actually going to be an overtake for the lead in category, coming down to the pit limiter line as well, as the number 13 of Rankin technically takes the lead as they hit the pit stops.
Impressive stuff. I mean, Daytona is a tricky pit lane. You can see Costantini hitting his marks quite well. Same too with the 24 also coming in on the same lap. A lot of cars deciding to come in then with just under 16 minutes left to go. The majority actually of the P2 field. But what a move that was from Elvis Rankin. I mean, that takes guts. But yeah, the Daytona, I mean, you're coming off of NASCAR 3 and 4 into the pit lane. You really do have to be careful not to exceed the pit speed limiter, because it's so easily done, but it carries such a weight in terms of the penalty. It's one of those things you're going to have to tread very, very carefully not to do, as we see the BMW M Hybrid V8s. Now Vlad Kimichev re-inherits the race lead after pit stops sort themselves out, and now he's got Spets, Leo, Bennett, Kerwin, all just in behind him, all wanting that win. And oh my word, I cannot wait to see the final 15 minutes of this race.
Yeah, this is going to be some intense action for sure. Kimachev leading the way as he has for the last few laps, and will of course have to hold on to that pressure. We're looking at about 10 laps remaining or so in this race. There's quite a lot of time, quite a lot of opportunities, and that is a bit wide already into the Western Horseshoe, but that corner does sometimes allow for some different lines to be opened up. Of course, Spets behind is going to be trying to find every opportunity to get past when at least when the time comes, and when the fuel target has been met.
It's a case of just waiting and then pouncing when you get given that golden opportunity. Coming up onto the back of some P2 traffic shouldn't be too difficult for these guys to lap them. Although, I mean, for Spets, it's proven to be more difficult than he'd have liked. Flash of the lights just to say, move out of my way. I'm going to fight for the lead, and I do not want to be held up more than I have to be. Kimachev is going to love situations like that, as Kalpenham and Stenshawn into the pit lane as well for the P2s, really kicking off in terms of their pit strategy. And this is what one lonely P2 car has caused, is these BMWs getting very, very close together, and these are opportunities that you have to pounce on. Cam, you can see Leo there pushing the rear end of the car just in front of him, under pressure as well from Kerwin, and maybe to the outside goes Kerwin. Is he going to catapult himself around the outside of the pair of them, or is he just going to go for Leo, emerging side by side? Leo getting them the push all the way to the outside and just settling in behind us, just Kerwin. And now the dummy switches one way, switches the other, inside line now for the International Horseshoe, fighting tooth and nail over this position, allowing John Bennett to just get away and have some breathing space. This is not what Leo would have wanted after trying to turn offense and now having to look backwards in his mirrors.
Yeah, mega fight between these drivers, fighting for every millimetre of space. But as it stands, and as you say, they've really lost ground, especially to the top couple of drivers who've checked out due to that LMP2. Spets diving it was really a major factor in the way that this battle for the top 5 has worked itself out. But Leo defending nicely there and being able to hold on to that 4th place, with Kerwin still there in 5th. But yeah, this just shows you how one lap of traffic can make the difference. But let's see if it comes back around. The LMP2 there didn't want to give up the space, but Spets made it happen, and to be honest, it has really worked out well for him.
Can't wait for this weekend if this is sort of a preview to what we could have over the next 48 hours. There's also taken to the High Line as well to lap a bit of traffic, hopefully not going to cause the same mayhem that we saw just moments ago. But yeah, well, this is 45 minutes long, let alone what they could fit into a whole day's worth of racing action. There could also be maybe a try again for Kerwin, outside line again for Leo, and he's got the slingshot. Could he go once more? Maybe for Bennett, very, very wide through turn number 1, carrying that momentum through, but it's deja vu from last lap, last time by, and Leo is still giving him the push. This time though, Kerwin has got maybe the nose ahead, bit more of an advantage in towards the next right-hander, but still the 27 holds firm and stays stubborn on the outside. Has the fellow BMW got the drive off the corner? These guys are not giving an inch at all, and I'm so here for it, Cam, and there Kerwin up into 4th place.
Yeah, can't really go side by side into the kink there. So Leo just having to back out of that one, and unfortunately losing out in the overall battle for this top 5. As just in front of these guys actually is the battle for the LMP2 lead. Rankin has gone back down into 2nd place, so his teammate Costantini has gone back up into 1st after them switching around, which is quite an interesting one. Here you can just see the difference in speed between the GTPs and the LMP2s. It's not a crazy difference, but it's certainly enough for them to get past on the straights.
Yeah, and they're going to have to use that to their advantage, and Bennett using it as best he can to try and stretch the advantage. Also, a bit of a fight here. McEwen, Keeney and Haas 3 wide in towards turn number 1 for the race lead in the GTDs. 3 Audis going at it as well, and the Porsche just sitting idle, doesn't really know what to do with himself. McEwen and Keeney running side by side. Haas trying to find the gap, but honestly, so much action in towards the International Horseshoe. 11 minutes left to go, and still side by side. The 17 of Keeney trying to take the lead, but Luke McEwen is having absolutely none of it and slams the door, takes the advantage, and now Keeney is under pressure, maybe looking backwards to the number 2 machine in towards now the Western Horseshoe. Is there going to be another move potentially for Johan Haas? Not quite close enough, but when it's 3 Audis, you can't really say it's the car that's separating them. It's all down to the driver. They've got to find something extra, and now that Porsche just in behind them of Aaron Vasquez wants to slice the pie. He wants to get on in this action. He wants some of the fun.
Yeah, McEwen was 5th at one point in this in the battle in the early parts of this race when we first jumped back onto split 1, but he's got himself up to the lead, so that is some great racing from him. Certainly looking like he's going to be challenging definitely towards the front in the final 10 minutes, but of course he's not going to be able to pull away with the 3 cars that are there behind. Keeney now trying to come back, of course, but he's certainly is sort of becoming a more smarter driver with half behind as well. They need to work out where they're going to use the slipstream to their advantage. Are they just going to push? Are they going to start batting? No, it is going to be pushing from Keeney all the way around through NASCAR 3 and 4.
Yeah, he doesn't want to spark anything, doesn't want to commit to the high line because he knows he's got 2 cars just in behind that will swallow him up. Now 3 wide. Oh my word, this is brave. And now you can see Vasquez trying to just follow, committing to the very, very low line. Oh my word, emerging to the right-hand side. Oh, that's Keeney. Outside line, 2 wide, 2 deep. And oh, given the Porsche the squeeze as well, Keeney was playing with fire there. Oh my goodness me, how that didn't end up in a massive crash, I do not know. Still under pressure, as you can see, the other Apex Racing Team Audi still fighting with Vasquez. The Porsche Johan Haaf now dropped down to P4. Keeney, yeah, I don't really know what else to say to that, Cam. Still fighting. You can see there of Haaf now getting himself back into the podium places to the inside of the kink. Yeah, that was something in towards turn 1, Cam.
These guys are absolutely crazy. Keeney with the chop to the right-hand side, coming towards the braking zone in turn 1, managing to make it work, staying in that 2nd place. And then we had Vasquez as well getting involved, almost getting up into 2nd place, but is now having to push Haaf back towards this top battle as it stands. So McEwen has got away slightly by some tenths at the beginning. It's all one of the GTPs there slicing through the middle of the GTB pack, and this Le Mans chicane is certainly turning out to be one of the most important points of the race, it seems, because the run off this could end up with 3-4 wide into turn 1.
I guess in some senses they're using each lap as a test for that final run, because that is going to be the decider at the end of it. I mean, the slipstream is so tight, it's so close that you can get side by side before the timing line to round off the lap, and of course to round off the race when we do get to that point. Side by side, just in behind Luke McEwen, Haaf, Keeney and Vasquez still giving it a go. You can see there Keeney on the inside line, Haaf trying to get the up and under potentially, but lap after lap they're testing to see which position is going to be most optimal for that run to the line come the checkered flag.
Yeah, and what we saw in the Raw with Dylan Scrivens winning that was he actually led coming out of the Le Mans chicane, but he got pushed to the line. So that is, of course, something that could be a big factor as well, is potentially finding a friend to help you get towards the front, as we're getting Haaf there coming very close to keying into that Western Horseshoe. And they have still let McEwen get away by a few tenths, and this could be very crucial when we get to the slipstreaming parts of the track. Of course, McEwen is certainly holding on to that, and I just glanced back over to the LMP2s, and we've now got to change again towards the front, as Sirico's got past Costatini as well, as Rankin has retaken the lead. So all change in multiple categories in a couple of laps. So much action here at Daytona.
We look away for not too long, and again the whole race turns on its head. I am thoroughly enjoying this. It's a shame we only have 6 minutes and 37 seconds left of it, but my oh my, it's going to be a showdown finish when we do get to the white flag and do reach the checkered flag. 3 very deserved winners, but so many drivers that have had a shout, have had a look potentially at the race lead. You can see the Vasquez pushing Johan Haaf through NASCAR 3 and 4 on the run towards turn number 1, and we are getting the vast majority of the P2s now lapping the lead fight of the GTD category, and also a BMW into the mix as well, just for good measure. It's when you get the 3-class overlap that you really get an awkward situation for all involved, Cam.
Yeah, just so many cars in the same real estate, but they all have different speeds, and they get to the next apex, the next braking zone at slightly different times, and yeah, it just becomes that little bit more awkward. Let's say, as we've seen Quira there in the BMW 7th place as it stands in the BMW category, go around the outside of the kink. So just showing you on that little straight there, the GTPs aren't that much quicker realistically than the LMP2s. In fact, the LMP2s are only about sort of 5 seconds a lap slower, and if you sort of break that down into the whole track, it is 5.7 kilometer track around. It's a very big track. Individually, certain sections, they're not actually that much quicker, and that can increase those awkward moments.
Yeah, because in some cases the BMWs do have to work to lap the P2s. It's not as big of a discrepancy between the BMW M Hybrid V8s and the Dallara P217s as it is between the BMWs and the GTDs, or the P2s and the GTDs. They definitely do have to sort of force their way through a little bit more, and as you say, it does open the door for some awkward opportunities. Let's put it that way. But nonetheless, we've seen very clean lapping for the most part. We've not seen any major incidents as a result of any, silly billies, let's put it that way, lapping in the wrong ways, which I think is very, commendable for these guys. Of course, top split, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot of these names on the grid over the weekend as well. We cut back, of course, our focus and our attention to this fight because it's a phenomenal fight and is not going to be giving up any time soon. 4 cars in for a shout of the lead, and at the moment, they all only seem interested for second.
Wow, this is getting so close for this battle. Half there, almost trying to block off the LMP2s there into the hairpin, as you're getting a fight in the mid-pack of the LMP2s as well. Getting one of the GTPs trying to get involved. Vasquez has been pushed back a little bit as the car's weaving around all over the place, trying to find some location, some place on the track. That's split up half as well, just losing a little bit. This is some crazy moments of the race where you have to be looking in your mirrors and forward at the same time. It seems impossible because it is.
Yeah, I would not want to be in their position at all. I mean, I would be because they're fighting for the lead and having, I'm sure, a ton of fun. However, at the same time, I am sure that is tremendously stressful. And yeah, I certainly am not good enough for it. But these guys, they're coping just fine. At least that's what it looks like from a very outside perspective. I'm sure they are completely panicking and doing their best to try and keep a straight face because, yeah, the chaos of an endurance race here at Daytona is one that not many people can really put up with. It's one that separates the good from the great. But these guys are doing their utmost. And as well for the GTDs, I'd say these guys, while they're not doing any of the lapping, I'd say in some cases you could argue they've got the hardest job of the lot, being the ones that are lapped.
Yeah, that is true, because as you say, you've got to look both ways, and that makes it so difficult because it takes your focus away, especially when you're having a battle yourself. As you see here, Haas trying to push Keeney up towards the front. They know there's just a couple of laps left of this race, and they really need to start closing that gap down to McEwen. They have closed up a few tenths already because of this, and the bum drafting like that works very well because you basically get extra power pushing the cars along. So that is certainly a way you can gain a few tenths here and there. And they need to be doing that because McEwen is still at a very comfortable position to be taking the victory in this race.
Yeah, he's far enough ahead, I think, that I don't think he is getting an overwhelming amount of slipstream. Of course, maybe an inkling, but not enough really to challenge on that run to the line. They are going to need to sort of back up their ideas a little bit and close the gap in the closing moments, because I think we are certainly approaching the sort of penultimate lap area. We'll have to keep an eye on Vlad Kimichev as to when he crosses the line to signal us on to the white flag for the last lap of this race. But for these guys, yeah, I mean, a 1 second gap in such little time, it's going to be difficult. And it gets to a point maybe where Johan Haas is just like, yeah, you know what? I'm done playing second fiddle. I don't want to settle for third. I at least want second in this race. He's going to try and cut his losses sooner rather than later, maybe even to take the reins and, go for the lead himself.
Yeah, let's see how this slipstream works to the line, though. Vasquez is going to be getting a bit of a run there, of course, but as it stands, we're going to be coming to the front of the GTP field. We've got Spets and Kimichev batting out 1 minute and 10 seconds to go, and he is just getting so close between these two drivers. Let's see how they go this weekend around, but they want to be taking the confidence into that, and one way of doing that will be taking victory here. Kimichev coming up towards the Le Mans chicane, under a minute to go, so there will be another lap after this one.
One more lap to decide it all. Vlad Kimichev versus Alexander Spets, two very, very accomplished drivers in terms of sim racing, and they are going toe to toe right here, right now. They've got a 3-second gap to the rest of the field. John Bennett in third place rounds off the podium provisionally, that he seems that if he can keep it clean, he will get the measure over Casey Kerwin. But now Spets, is he going to eye up that moving towards turn 1? Pulls out to the right hand side. Vlad Kimichev trying to hold defensive outside line for Spets. Is it the committed move that he wants to see, or is he going to try and get the up and under and get the drive on the flat out section towards the International Horseshoe? He's not quite been able to get it. However, Kimichev is going defensive, is feeling the pressure. Now outside line for the number 1 machine, lets him through and parking it on the apex beautifully as Vlad Kimichev. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to defend, and that BMW is trying to be as twice as wide than it possibly can be.
Yeah, perfectly positioned there. Once again, coming into Western Horseshoe. A bit tight, though. Hopefully, we'll be able to get the exit. But, of course, this is keeping Spets in range, though, as Kimichev not taking the ideal line. Final lap time, of course. So just a couple of straights and 1 chicane to go to find out who is going to be taking the victory. Spets, at this moment, is he almost too close? Because he's not going to be getting the biggest run up towards the chicane. But is he going to lead, or is he going to be second place coming through NASCAR 3 and 4?
Oh, I don't know, Cam. I can say one thing for sure. It's that I thoroughly enjoyed this race. Alexander Spets, though, it's all about the positioning as the final run of this race in towards the Mont Chicane, deterred really by a late move from Vlad Kimichev, and now the pressure is on. Put your foot to the floor and hope. Vlad Kimichev, he has hung on so brilliantly well. Alexander Spets, nearly 4 attempts back as they run their way through NASCAR 3 and 4. Is it going to go the way of Vlad Kimichev, the number 3 machine, who has led beautifully throughout this race? Final lap of the IMSA iRacing series to round off round number 6 of Friday Night Prime Time. The run to the line, and it is going to go the way of Vlad Kimichev, who sees the checkered flag first to take victory for the BMW M Hybrid V8. A very close fight between himself and Alexander Spets, and now the fight for the LMP2s, it seems, is going to go the way of Elvis Rankin.
Yeah, Rankin did a really good job during that pit stop phase, and then during this second stint as well, managed to get to the lead and through some traffic, managed to get the teammate of Costantini out of that slipstream range, and is going to be taking a wonderful victory here for Apex.
He is going to see the checkered flag first for Apex Racing Team. Some big names in this race and some big names taking the victory. Costantini 1.3 seconds back to take second place. The fight for the GTs, though, is far from over. Keeney, Harth, and still Luke McEwen and Aaron Vasquez in the mix. In towards the Le Mans chicane for the final time. Outside line for Johan Harth. Takes the lead, and is that deliberate by Keeney? He now has to get the run. NASCAR 3 and 4 left to go. Could it be a titanic finale for these guys? High line for Harth as he ducks his way back down. He's going to be hoping that he can hang on, and I think he might. There's Luke McEwen and the fellow Apex Racing Team Audi outside line through NASCAR 3 and 4. It's going to be a photo finish between the pair of them. Looking backwards, it is going to be Johan Harth that takes victory, or is it Luke McEwen just getting the nose ahead and getting a bit of a blip? Actually, it's going to be closer than we think. 3 wide. It's going to be McEwen that takes victory for the GTDs. Oh my word, what a showdown. 4 cars with only in a couple attempts. I, for one, can hardly breathe at that one, Cam. Wow.
Wow, McEwen there, 3rd place out of the Le Mans chicane and managing to make it work to take victory and get a 1-2 with his teammate Johan Harth as well. That is some great play by Apex to somehow hold Keeney back to a podium place. That is some intense driving and certainly some team play to make sure that they had that one. Insane racing through all 3 categories. Such close fights as well, all the way to that last lap, and that is just a warm-up for what is going to come this weekend.
Don't forget to tune in for tomorrow, ladies and gents. We'll talk you through the race results. After 30 laps of intense action, it was Vlad Kimichev that took victory for the BMWs. Alexander Spets and John Bennett join him on the podium. Casey Kerwin and our winner from last time out, Eduardo Leo, P5 in this race. Then comes Matt Farrow, Quero, Lyons, Shelby Huber and Dario Agnello. Your top 10 or 1 minute 30, the fastest lap by John Bennett, who managed to get to 3rd place in this race. There are your top 10 for the BMWs. It was Tony Rapusard that was P11 of those that managed to finish. Sasha Gall and Pedro Sanchez Albert, 23 laps down, did not see the checkered flag. Now to the LMP2s. Elvis Rankin 1.3 seconds clear, and Michelle Costantini in P2, Moreno Sarica P3. Gordy Much and Kalpin in your top 5, with Jose Soraya, very accomplished racer in iRacing, in P6. Then comes Stenshaw in P7, Owen Carroll, Leclerc, Daniel Kraft, your top 10 for the P2s. A very, very close fight amongst these guys as well, it must be said, and still more to come. Just in behind Daniel Craft was Valentin Bonney, then comes Resende, Scott Michaels, then to round off those that did finish the P2s. Will Redford, 27 laps down, did retire from this race, as I'm sure did a lot of people in that split too. The top 4 in the GTDs, it speaks for itself really as to how awesome that race was. Luke McEwen, the victory by 34 thousandths of a second. Govan Keeney, the podium with Johan Haaf settled in between the pair of them there in second place. Aaron Vasquez P4, Ascari Rene P5, Laubich P6, Ugolotti in 7th. Michael Rackle just in behind there with Elias Riker and Balets Siotis there with P11 going to Sven Olhasser. A contender really for the race lead early on, but unfortunately fell backwards. Then comes Kernbach P12 and Maxime Godino that unfortunately did not get to the checkered flag either. Rounds off the GTD field. Cam, I mean, I don't really think you can summarise that race because you'd be here all night.
Yeah, that was some intense action and just so much action. And even there, you saw with the GTD field, everyone but one car within 10 seconds of the lead as well. Insane racing. And don't forget to tune in about 12:30 tomorrow. That's when we're going to be getting underway with the amazing Daytona 24. Can't wait to see who is going to come out on top of that one. It is going to be insane. But of course, for this series, it is going to be next week as well at Long Beach, which I'm really looking forward to. That's going to be some intense action as well.
What a calendar we have really for the IMSA iRacing series. I mean, we have just got such a plethora of fantastic circuits. Of course, Long Beach, then Virginia, Nürburgring, Road America, Detroit and Sebring to round off the season. A lot to look forward to for sure. It will be us back in the commentary booth in a week's time. Same time, of course, 8:45 GMT. For those in the UK, of course, convert that to your relevant time. So make sure you are here because the IMSA iRacing series does not disappoint at all. And of course, as Cam said, do not forget to tune in for the Daytona 24 over the next couple of days, Saturday and Sunday. Tune in because it's going to be an absolute world of action. However, from myself, Zach Sweeney and Cameron Roger in the commentary booth, we've had Hugo, Luis and Henry Maddox actually behind the scenes frantically trying to bring you a show, and they've done a very, very good job of it. From all of us involved here at RaceSpotTV, take care, we'll see you soon, and bye-bye.